Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is a Friday, March 8th at 7:15 p.m. It's been a while. I'm sorry about that. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. May as well talk about them to open this thing up. First thing, we had some changes at the radio station I work at, ESPN 97.5, 92.5. And I'm bummed out by them because they were budgetary changes. We ended up parting ways with one, Josh Beard, close friend of mine, Michael Connor, who I've come to know over the last couple of months after just 4 months together as a show on the air. Nothing to say other than it just sucks. I feel horrible for them. Not to mention Andrew Carlson, producer of that show, and Frank Bullington, who had been basically around as a consultant for our station. It just sucks. I really don't know what else to say. There was a moment in time where I wasn't 100% sure about my job going forward. Really a 2-hour period. It was pretty stressful for me. But I got lucky this time around. I ended up surviving in the radio game, and now I've got a partner in Joe George, a new time slot from noon to 3. Sean Mapes is still around, so if you haven't checked it out already, I encourage you to do so. We've been having a lot of fun these first 2 weeks. Radio is bloody. That's all I can really say. I also went to Mexico for a 5-day trip. My best friend here, or I guess co-best friend, I don't know. I don't want to make them mad at me, but he married a very close friend of mine, and it's been a long time coming, so I'm very happy for the two of them. It's a really great time in Mexico, and honestly, it was great to get away. Just get absolutely hammered off of palomas on a day-to-day basis, drinking it like water. Another thing that happened that I really haven't had a chance to dive into too much, but a close industry friend of mine passed away, Maggie McKeithen. This one's been tough. Basically, over the last 5-6 months or so, we had become very close. This is somebody that I would vent to about work, and a really funny person. A person I've known for a while, too. Went out to drink with her on a regular basis, hung out with her on New Year's Eve, hung out with her at the Houston Sports Awards. It's basically one of those people in Houston sports media, or just media as a whole, that if I saw out somewhere, I wanted to hang with her because quick-witted, funny, in the way that I am funny, dark humor, quick-witted. She was also the morning producer at Fox 26. Whenever I was on Fox 26, she would basically be egging me on to do stuff, usually push me out of my comfort zone and do something funky. And, I mean, at times, life just isn't fair. She was an awesome person. I think Louisiana would have been very proud of her. And I miss her already. I will say, and I don't really want to go into too much detail about this because I'd rather just remember her. I am a little taken aback by how bold some people who are not friends with her, like me, have been online asking me what happened. Very bold of you, especially the people that were trying to make some sort of hot take out of it. It's none of your fucking business, number one, what happened. Number two, you're really going to try to use my friend as a prop for some wacko take you have? Go fuck yourself. If you ask me that in person, I would consider punching you, and I'm not kidding on that front. Anyway, that's really that. I just feel like some people have no sense of actual decency online, and I'm even talking about people who actually know me. I'm just kind of taken aback by how many people asked about that. But anyway, didn't want to dive too deep into that, but here we are. You know, when I start talking, I don't stop. And I did miss giving takes on my own. I was watching coverage of the NFL Combine over the weekend, and I thought to myself, man, I got to get back to doing this stuff. Because the NFL Combine, man, there's way too much media coverage of that thing. It's pretty funny that this thing has transformed over the years from basically a way for NFL people to escape their families and get drunk with one another to becoming this event where everybody shows up. And we're not just talking NFL coaches, NFL front office executives, scouting departments, and the players who are going to be drafted. We're also talking about like literally every single type of media and some people who really barely have any access. And God forbid I gatekeep, but Jesus, the Combine, it is fucking dumb. I know that for some people, it actually can be valuable. But the way we are covering it now, there is really nothing that you can take away from that thing. You're really expecting a quarterback to succeed or not to succeed based off of throwing in shorts with no one rushing him to receivers he's never worked with? Are you really expecting somebody running a 40-yard sprint from a stance they'll never get in on a football field? Are you expecting that to really be a true determiner for how fast this guy is when he's doing it without pads? And again, he's doing it in this wacky stance. It sucks for the players, the way that it's covered now. They fly there in coach, and I know, all right, you're flying in a plane, and you're not paying for it at least. And then you get to this event, and you're basically just running around for 24 hours at a time, interview, these drills. And since the NFL has done such a really good job of turning the entire league year into a television event, they have found a way to turn February into Combine Month after the Super Bowl's done. It's the biggest television event afterwards. And to their credit, I mean, they've turned it into something that a lot of people watch. But at the end of the day, just know that it really isn't that important. And it drives me crazy the way it's covered, because people cover it as if it's like the most important thing before the draft. And like what happens there is going to seriously impact how teams view a player. Maybe in the interviews. That's it. And that's really all I like, is the interviews that get leaked where questions get asked like, would you kill your mother with a brick or a hammer? That's the kind of stuff I like. Anyway, I saw the NFL Combine and I did want to get back into the swing of things, but as a procrastinator and as somebody who is sort of just trying to get his own head right, I took a break. For those who are back with me right now, I appreciate y'all. All right. Texans free agency is almost upon us. It starts on Monday, the tampering window, and it starts in earnest on Wednesday. Here's what the Texans have done thus far. They gave Dalton Schultz, tight end, a 3-year, $36 million extension. 23.5 of it is guaranteed. We learned today, I saw via Texans Cap, that the cap figure for this season is going to be $7.94 million. That's 3.1% of the salary cap. And smart move. Sort of what I expected when I saw the first deal at first. If you give Schultz a deal where he's making $12 million a year, there's a very good chance that you're going to try to push some of that money down the road so you could potentially make a big splash signing this offseason. There are all sorts of gymnastics that you have to play to make the cap manageable on a year-to-year basis. But I'm pretty sure that there's a chance that something will happen the rest of free agency. Also, Kaimi Fairbairn got a deal. What was it, about 3 years? I had the number in front of me. $15.9 million, making him the third highest paid kicker in the league in terms of average annual value. Jonathan Grenard, nothing new on that front, at least last I checked before I started recording this thing again. It's 7:24 on Friday night. I'm curious as to what you guys are looking for the Houston Texans to do in free agency. I know a lot of people are now back in the mix after the last couple of years, which have been a fucking disaster. No other way to look at it. Before this season, it was tough. with Deshaun Watson, without Deshaun Watson, 2020, 2021, 2022. If you didn't pay attention at all, good for you. Good for you. I'm glad I was gone for 2 of those years, to be perfectly honest. I missed it in Houston, but I don't know what the fuck I would have done doing a daily radio show in 2020 and 2021 talking about the Houston Texans. I really don't know that. 2022 was my first chance, and if you listen to the Vanessa and Gallant show, the Paul Gallant show, we generally just didn't talk about the Texans because what was the point? But things have changed dramatically over the course of the last year. So there's a lot of people back, and there's a lot of first-timers. And I know that at times I can be abrasive and come off like a dick. For example, I posted a video about the Texans not needing Saquon Barkley on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, if you're watching it on some of the many ways you can watch this. And based off of the comment section, I believe that I was ratioed. And if you take a look at it, I think I got it was 30 likes, 31 likes, and there's about 60 comments. And I'll be honest that this is one of the first times in a while that I've gone into the comments section and responded violently. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Got to say, I should be above joining the fray in the comments section, but I'm a human being. What can I say? Some people were calling that a stupid take, saying the Texans would be stupid to not spend money on Saquon Barkley, and I said it's fucking idiotic to pay a running back in 2024. Especially when there are so many options out there, and I don't believe Saquon Barkley to be leaps and bounds better than every single other running back out there. But running back is something the Houston Texans are probably going to look at. I mean, they don't really have one that fits their system on the roster right now. Pendleton whiskey, by the way. They don't have one like that. I mean, Devin Singletary's not on the roster. I like Dameon Pierce. I hate that everyone is just giving up altogether on Dameon Pierce. I would hope that an offseason, especially an offseason where he has been kind of cast to the side as a seeming non-scheme fit for the Texans, I'd like to hope that he has done some sort of real back to basics, I guess, work to see if he can be more patient as a runner and not just blast himself into the hole as quickly as possible trying to run fuckers over. This is a guy that showed a lot of skill, I thought, in 2022. I do think he's very talented. And it bums me out that we've kind of just given up on Dameon Pierce. But I think that is a move that the Texans are going to think about. Like running backs. And, of course, Saquon Barkley has shown interest in the Houston Texans. And there's been a lot of big names that now that all these Texans fans who are back, that you guys have been calling for Nick Caserio to sign. And I want to word this better than I have before. I want you to cool your jets. Financial prudence does not mean settling for mediocrity. And a lot of you seem to believe that that is the case. That if the Texans are patient, if the Texans are economically responsible in free agency, that's just code for being cheap. And that is settling for mediocrity. And again, I get it. Everyone's excited, and you want to push all the chips to the middle of the table after the way things have been for most of the last 5 years, going all the way back to having that 24/7 lead on the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs. You want the Super Bowl. We all want the Super Bowl. Here's something you got to remember just going forward. With CJ Stroud, there is, at the very least, a percentage chance of this team getting hot and making it all the way to the Super Bowl every single year, I believe, for the rest of this guy's career. Where you want to rank him among NFL quarterbacks, that's up to you. Personally, there's only 2 quarterbacks that I would take over him. It's 1, Patrick Mahomes. It's 2, Joe Burrow. That is my preference. I'm sure you have your own takes. I'll be honest, don't really care about him. That's just how I feel about it. But you're all entitled to your takes. This is the United States of America, right? We're all entitled to an opinion. But with Stroud, You have luxuries that other teams do not have. You do not need to force playmakers into your salary cap to make a above average quarterback better. Because you have a quarterback like this, you do not need to put together the fantasy football kind of roster that a lot of you are banging the table violently and militantly for. I say all of this because, for those who don't know, this is used against me for whatever reason, even though I've lived in Houston almost as long as I've lived in, as I grew up in Massachusetts. But I grew up rooting for the New England Patriots. They had Tom Brady. Because they had Tom Brady, they were able to do things that other contenders with lesser quarterbacks were not able to do. And you're seeing the same thing right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at this cast of weapons he was working with these past playoffs. Yeah, he had Travis Kelce, but Kelce was in the midst of a down year in the regular season, and the wide receivers he had around him weren't even that good. Stroud, at wide receiver, has a Nico Collins and Tank Dell, a really good 1-2 tandem. He has a top 10 to 12 tight end in Dalton Schultz. And say they bring back Noah Brown, who seemed to have some familiarity with the Texans. That's a really good wide receiver core. And C.J. Stroud's going to make those guys better. On top of that, do you now need to sign a running back like Saquon Barkley, who is certainly talented, to a contract where you're going to be paying him over a short-term deal $10+ million a year, and perhaps costing yourself $10 million against the cap when you have about 29 free agents that you need to bring back into the fold? 29, it's a lot. Signing Saquon Barkley is going to cost you in areas that you need to actually address. Signing any of the top name running backs is probably going to do that. But specifically, Saquon Barkley is going to do it more than any of the other ones. And there are plenty of running back options out there. I will agree that Saquon Barkley is the best of all the running backs available. But is he that much better than the best version of Derrick Henry, which might not exist anymore? Is he that much better than the best version of Josh Jacobs, who was 26 years old, a year younger than Saquon Barkley, also a free agent as far as things stand right now? Is he better than Tony Pollard? Significantly. Is he better than DeAndre Swift, 25 years old? Significantly. There are other options at running back. And I feel like a lot of people out there see the name Saquon Barkley, and either because of fantasy football or because of the fact that because he was in New York, he got an elevated profile and was doing the most he possibly could behind a bad offensive line in New York with Daniel Jones as his quarterback, not the best quarterback either. I think a lot of you are putting him on this giant pedestal and believe that he is the finishing piece to the Houston Texans winning a Super Bowl. And I'm sorry, that's just fucking wrong. It's not the way you're going to win by spending big in free agency on a running back. I thought we all agreed, and you guys are perhaps back in on the NFL conversation. I thought we all agreed that paying a running back is bad. Remember the Ezekiel Elliott contract? Or have we forgotten already? Are we going to learn from recent NFL history? Running backs are great complementary pieces. However, when you got a great quarterback like C.J. Stroud, do you need to invest heavily in that position? This isn't Brock Purdy with Christian McCaffrey. This is C.J. Stroud with anybody. And I'm not saying just sign a Devin Singletary, but are you telling me that it's more smarter, to pay for Saquon Barkley as opposed to bringing Devin Singletary back and drafting somebody second, third, fourth round at running back? Again, you don't know if you're going to get a good player, but last time you drafted a running back, Dameon Pierce, he fit pretty well in the Pep Hamilton system. Or are you going to sign this running back? Because I don't think running back is going to be the biggest difference between last year and this season. Do you think that Saquon Barkley would have done a fucking thing against that Ravens defense? No. He had no chance. Behind that offensive line, he had no chance. And the Texans have invested a lot of money in the offensive line. Maybe they invested some of that money a little bit too early, but are they legitimately, because of signing a running back, going to go further than they did last year? That is not what's going to be the difference. It's just not. I feel very confident in saying that. Could it help? Sure. Was it going to beat the Ravens? What they needed to beat the Ravens was better interior offensive line help. And I'm not going to act like I know anything about the interior offensive line play. I really fucking don't. I don't know a goddamn thing about it. What I do know is that the Texans, at one point this season, were down to playing Michael Dieter, who was playing tackle in the preseason and getting C.J. Stroud killed, at center. I know that they were moving Titus Howard from right tackle to right guard for much of the year. George Fant did a very good job playing right tackle in his stead. Another free agent, by the way. Check that, left guard. With Shaq Mason. Wait, hang on a second. Yeah, Shaq Mason was at right guard. So you move over Titus Howard. But then eventually, at the end of the year at left guard, you're playing Juice Scruggs. And Juice Scruggs did a pretty good job. But are you expecting Kenyon Green to come back? Are you expecting Kenyon Green to come back and do anything? I'm honestly looking at Kenyon Green like a lost cause right now. I feel like if you're looking at something in free agency, and something that's not going to require you to break the bank, you're looking for an offensive lineman on the interior, whether it's a center or a guard, so you can potentially move Juice Scruggs over to center. You're looking for somebody on the interior who has played in a Mike McDaniel offense or something, or Kyle Shanahan offense, whatever, and there are options that are available. I'm not going to act like I know a damn thing about any of these guys, but Robert Hunt, 28 years old, played for the Dolphins. Lloyd Cushenberry, John Simpson from the Ravens. There's Mitch Morse, who just got released by the Bills at center. He got released because of his salary. Connor Williams on the Dolphins. Kevin Zeitler, he's 34. There are options on the interior offensive line. The interior offensive line needs to be better. And yeah, you've invested a lot of money into it, but what could C.J. Stroud have used in that game against the Ravens? Help up the middle, because he was getting blasted up the middle. So that's one need that I think is much more of a need than on the at running back. Defensive line, you've heard D'Amico Ryans, you've heard Nick Caserio talk about the defensive line over and over and over and over again. So they're going to probably address that in some way, shape, or form. Is it going to be possible to address that at pick 23 in the draft? Unlikely. So that might put you in a very difficult spot, because right now, if you took a look at what happened in the NFL today, Justin Madubuike, who I wanted the Texans to sign, he signed a 4-year, $98 million deal, $75.5 million guaranteed, to stay with the Baltimore Ravens. Chris Jones is kind of available, but I mean, he did in the Super Bowl parade speech say that he was going to go back to Kansas City. It doesn't sound like it's 100% certainty. That is a guy I would like Texans to spend huge on, if they can. Chris Jones. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but he's won 3 Super Bowls. Is he really going to try? Come on. It's a fucking game. They like playing the game. You know that, right? He's just going to stop wanting to play because he's won 3 Super Bowls? I don't know. That's a quite the refreshing challenge in the middle of your career, to go from the best team in the NFL to an up-and-coming team and see if you can maybe take them over the top as a leader. And that's a guy who won 2 playoff games for the Chiefs in these playoffs. There's also Christian Wilkins, who the first time I talked about him this week, I'll be honest, I wasn't diving headfirst into free agency, but having listened to a couple of people, this is a guy who's on the field just about every single down. So that's nice if you have to pay a big contract for him. Per Cody Stutes, I guess Madubuike is going to make more than 4 years and the $98 million that Madubuike got. Holy shit, if that's the case, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. I don't know if I'd go that far, but that is also an option for the Houston Texans here. Christian Wilkins. If I'm spending big on anything, it's on a defensive tackle, because I don't know that I'm going to be able to find that guy at pick number 23 in the draft. And then there's one other position that we haven't been talking about, but I think we should, given the fact that the Texans gave up so many big plays down the middle of the field and deep, specifically against the Browns. Remember those plays down the seam to the tight ends? How many times did you feel like a safety was out of position? I'll be honest, I don't know the ins and outs of the defensive schemes, but it felt like the one area where the Texans safeties really struggled was deep coverage. In the safety market, there's a lot of guys out there right now. A lot of guys have been getting released. The guy that I like the most is a guy that I covered in Seattle, Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs is an elite center fielder and still has ability. 31 years old. That is a guy that I would like the Texans to sign, actually more than anybody, mainly because I have a degree of familiarity with him, having covered him up in Seattle. But these positions, to me, are much more of a priority than running back, as are figuring out which of the 29 free agents that you currently have that you want to keep and who you don't want to keep. signing Saquon Barkley to a short-term kind of deal, which is the smartest kind of deal to give a guy like Saquon Barkley who has dealt with injuries in the past, that is going to hurt your ability to do all of the things that I just said that the Texans need to do. So I hate to describe the energy of the Saquon Barkley faith militant as this, but the energy that you've been giving is sugar daddy throwing money at an Insta-thought when you've got bills to pay at home. We all want the shiny object. All of us. I want what I can't have. The dating world. I'm probably going to be single forever because of that. I will probably be that person someday. But you can't let all these free agents walk, and you can't address those three needs, which are bigger needs than running back. Running back alone is not going to get the Texans over the top. If you were playing Madden, you would feel that way. If in fantasy football, you would feel that way. It's the real fucking world, dude. And lasses. So, I will once again say, cool your jets, and now we will take a look at the comments. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, and on X @Gallant Says. Let's read some comments. And Jay Fuentes Respecter says, it'd be cool to cover the NFL Combine, go get drunk in Indy, and try to interview some important people for a week. No, I never want to go to Indianapolis. Ever. Chris Crockett says, I honestly prefer the Texans to sign Wilkins, Al-Shaair, and I'm guessing Justin Simmons if they can. I will take that over Saquon Barkley and other players. This is not me trying to disparage Saquon Barkley, who wants to play for the Texans, but how much of a discount is he really going to take? Paid Q713 says, bro, you can sign Saquon and still get other players. Don't make it seem like if we get him, we can't get anybody else. But that is part of this. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to get your own guys and the other ones. He will be, because of the way that NFL contracts are structured, against the salary cap. If you give him a short-term deal, you're going to have to put a lot of money against the cap early on. That's going to hurt your ability to give guys long-term deals. It does not make it impossible. You were right on that front. But it is a major obstacle. And what happens if he gets hurt? That's what sucks about this. Predicting the guy getting hurt? Okay, that might not be fair. But what happens if he gets hurt and you give him all that money? Ball Y'all comments, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. The running back market is already dead. I don't think it'll take a lot to get him signed. You don't know that. These guys are all stubborn. I think that one of them is going to be looking for a multi-year deal. And will someone be willing to give that? I would imagine a team that doesn't have the best quarterback situation would probably think about that. Rob Morgan says, what they needed against the Ravens was a weapon outside of Nico. That's why we desperately need to draft 2 wide receivers. No, guys. You have Nico and you have Tank Dell. You are assuming that they are going to be healthy come playoff time. You cannot go into every single year believing that your receivers are going to get hurt. Keep Tank Dell away from the interior line. Best case scenario, going into the playoffs, you have Nico, you have Tank, you have Noah Brown, you have Dalton Schultz. Could you do better at running back? Sure. But the difference was not the lack of weapons. The difference was you had no time for CJ Stroud. You didn't have time. Did a good job of evading sacks, but the offensive line in front of him could not handle Baltimore's interior. That is a bad matchup for you, but guess what? The Kansas City Chiefs also have a guy in Chris Jones who is a bad matchup for you. You can blame it on the skill players all you want. Not having Tank Dell, there was clearly a difference in the offense between when the Texans had it and when they didn't. But if Tank Dell is back, and I think you should go into next year assuming he will be back and assuming he will be the similar player, where should you actually address? You have to allocate your resources properly. When you have a guy like CJ Stroud, you're going to have to bet on yourself to make more happen with less. Bleed Blue on Twitch comments, he lives. And says the third hour wasn't worth the change from you personality. No, that show's fine. I'm still having fun on that one. Jerome Rodriguez says, "What's up, PG? I love your show." And then Jonathan Garcia says, "I last longer than a white crayon." I don't know. I don't know what the fuck that means. I truly don't know what the fuck that means. Larry and Stafford's commenting on Twitter as far as, do the Texans need to spend big in free agency? Yes, they do need to. But do you mean, Larry, spend big on like one player? Or do you mean spend big on just all the shit that they got to take care of? Because this is more going to be one of those things where you take a look at the bill after the restaurant tab comes out, and you're going to say to yourself, Jesus, there's a lot of things here. Wow. And maybe you're not that thrilled with any of them. You know, we're not talking about like a filet or something like that. But I don't know. To me, and listen, I love a good bottle of wine. Saquon would be kind of like a big bottle of wine on this one. And the bottle of wine's always a little bit over the top. I only wish you could go to a place where they just uncork it. Maybe that makes me unclassy. But that's what I'd prefer to do. That's the worst part about it. You go out to dinner with friends, you got someone who's a little bougie and loves to get the fanciest bottle of wine, and you thought the $70 to $80 dinner that you're getting maybe once a month all of a sudden turns into $150 because it's a fucking bottle of wine that was good, but it's still like, what the fuck? That's sort of what I'm looking at with Saquon Barkley. What else do we have here? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Wade Meadows says, investing in the offensive line will improve both the pass protection and the running game, no matter who's the running back. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking at here. I thought, in spots, Devin Singletary actually had a very good season last year. I don't know that Dameon Pierce knows how to operate in this system. I don't think we should give up on him altogether based off of what we saw in 2022. I think he's a very talented player. I think if you believe otherwise, you're not watching. And if there are other free agent options at running back, hey, take a look-see. You know? I'm curious if there are people commenting on X/Twitter. I'm finding out that Restream does not seem to be showing them. So if you are commenting, I apologize for that, because we do seem to have quite a few viewers on Twitter and or X. Appreciate you stopping by. I'm going to have to work on that with the Restream system that I use, because I do have more followers on Twitter than I do on the other things, on YouTube and on Twitch. Bleed Blue says, what year will Texans-Cowboys big game be? Will you live to see it? I think the tricky thing for the Cowboys is that they're just stuck with Dak Prescott, who is good, not bad. He's a good quarterback, but he's the kind of quarterback that you always feel like you can do better. It's basically me on the dating apps. When I'm on the dating apps, which I haven't been on in 6 months, I constantly feel like I can do better than what's right in front of me. I'm trying to be better on that front. It is hard, though. It is hard when you have wandering eyes, if you will. NJ Fuentes, respecter. I hate seeing him talk about the bougie wine friend. I hate them seeing them pour wine and they fill up like 2 fingers deep. Like, pour the wine, bitch. Yeah, but that means another bottle's coming out. And then you're going to have to put more on that tab at the end of it. So there you go. This has been Paul talking about the Houston Texans. I appreciate you guys joining. Anyone want to talk about the thing last night or just politics in general? I kind of want to talk about politics. I'll try not to be too partisan. I like to think I'm not partisan. I like to think I'm right down the middle. I probably lean a little right of center, but it's been an interesting week. Tuesday was Super Tuesday. For those who don't know what Super Tuesday. For those who don't know what Super Tuesday is, it's when Democrats and Republicans vote on who they want to run for president and other offices. And once those votes are tallied, delegates are awarded. This is from Wikipedia, I think. Delegates, by the way, are people chosen to represent their community at their political party's presidential nominating convention. As far as voting for a primary in Texas, you can vote in one primary a year, and you stay affiliated with whatever party primary you vote in for the rest of that calendar year. I think I registered for a primary once a while ago. I do not remember the year because I hate the idea of aligning myself with either of these two institutions. I believe the adversarial nature and the contempt with which they deal with each other is directly obstructing progress in our country. We all get pissy about things that don't go our way. I'll be honest, I've been dealing with a little thing like that at work, not with my co-host or anything like that, but there's been something going on behind the scenes that was bothering me. And I realized, like, going forward after the changes we made, I'm just going to have to suck it up and make it work with this person, even though I don't see eye to eye with this person. This person has a lesser role now, and I have more of a role in doing that. But at a certain point, you got to just suck it up and fucking work. Do your goddamn job. I'm curious as to how many people knew about the Super Tuesday. I saw there were 371,506 ballots cast in Harris County in the Democratic and Republican primaries. In a county with 2.6 million registered voters, that's about 14.3%. I'm sure on social media saw people that dorkily, I once did this, so I can't hate on it too much, have the I voted stickers. But either you didn't know about it or you didn't want to register with the party is what I'm guessing was the obstacle for voting at the primaries. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about from these primaries. Did you get shit stuffed in your mailbox? I actually kept all the flyers that I got. This is actually, I think, like a good flyer. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Leslie Briones, the Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 14, but hey, look at this. It's a rather informative packet. Now, I'm American. I'm not going to fucking read it, but that's the kind of stuff that I would like to see. Instead, the amount of negative ads that I got that were endorsements of Mano de Ayala, probably butchering the pronunciation of that, apologies, Mano, made me laugh very hard. That's why I kept all of these. Okay, so this is your standard one, right? You can take a look at this here. Elections matter. Experience counts. Mano de Ayala is delivering conservative wins. You know what this is positive. Right? Stopping the woke left. Now, maybe that's a little bit annoying, but hey, okay. There's a bunch of endorsements. It's not a negative ad. But then I got the negative ads. Poor John Perez. This guy just got absolutely fucking bodied by all these flyers I got. Look at all these things. There's like 6 of them. Here's one. John Perez and his phony friends just keep on lying. Don't believe the lies. Don't be fooled by John Perez and his band of shady actors. Here's another one. Says the exact same thing. You can tell a lot about a person's character by the company they keep. Don't be fooled by John Perez and his band of shady actors. Oh, we're not done. Really, they went to town with this shady backers. With John Perez, poor fucker. John Perez and his shady backers are paving a road of lies. If John Perez won't stand up to lies at home, he won't stand up for our families in Austin. And one of the big ones is, like, they're apparently he lied about getting endorsed by the NRA or something like that. Another one. Mano de Ayala is fighting Biden's failed open border policy, which is actually happening now. I do think that, Trump's kind of making it a little political and waiting to do anything about it, or waiting for actual cooperation on it. But I also think Biden's making his own mess on that side of things too. And that's the United States of America. Politics are very performative. Here's another one. Look at this one. This is really a scary one. Chaos at the border. Illegal immigrants and drugs are pouring across our open border thanks to Joe Biden. There you go. That's a hot one. Mano de Ayala again. Here's another one. Mano de Ayala. Another John Perez smear. John Paris is piling up the lies, hoping you won't notice. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of that. We also had on Thursday, we had the State of the Union. How many people watched that thing? The State of the Union, for those who don't know, it's an annual message delivered by the president to a joint session of Congress near the beginning of most calendar years on the current condition of the nation. The address generally includes reports on the nation's budget, economy, news, agenda, progress, achievements, and the president's priorities and legislative proposals. It fulfills the requirements in Article 2, Section 3, Clause 1 of the Constitution for the president to periodically give to the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. During most of the country's first 100 years, it was written. But from 1913 on, there began a regular practice of delivering it to Congress in person as a way to rally support for the president's agenda. And then a submitted detailed report would come after that. But as everything becomes in the United States of America, now it's just a TV fucking event. It is showmanship and entertainment, baby. I mean, for Christ's sake, if you were watching this, and I had it on ABC, it's the first channel that popped up with it on there. I'm not really expecting any of these television networks to cover it in a way that I would cover it. But you got like a red carpet before the broadcast. You got that guy, George Santos, the expelled congressman who was there, and he's got a bedazzled collar. Biggest fucking liar that's been in Congress in a while. Honestly, I respect just how much of a liar he was, just brazen with it. A lot of these people that are in there are liars as it is, but just like Ayala saying about poor fucking Joe Perez. But you had George Santos there, and then you have, as they're showing like video of all the people that are going into the room where the president's about to deliver the State of the Union. There's like all this reverence from broadcasters as they show like random politician X, Y, and Z. Like regardless of their leaning, oh yeah, this person's been working hard. Fuck them all. I can't believe that the media has gotten to a point where we now, because I guess the people that are at that level of media think that these politicians are their peers, but I don't think that politicians really deserve our respect. They deserve instead like constant nagging from us. Respect? I don't know about that. Because they get there through performative means, like all these fucking flyers that are on my floor right here behind me. And it was really annoying seeing it, like every politician that they showed, they zoomed in on. Oh, well, look at what he's done. Look what this person's done. Oh, there's going to be a lot of deference and people are going to compose themselves properly in there. At one point, I heard people chanting 4 more years out loud for Joe Biden. I got to say, regardless of your political leanings, I think if you're leaning left, I think you would like somebody other than Joe Biden to be running right now. I think there was a poll that was described by ABC, like 76% of people do not want these two to be running against each other again. Like, I think we're all on the same page there, right? Do we really want this fucking again? As far as the speech itself, I did take some notes. Biden didn't stumble as much as I thought he would, but of course, as American politics are so performative, there was a lot of hyperbole. I think at one point, Biden said, not since Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. Seems extreme, no? To me, it seems extreme. But that's just me. We will not walk away. Talking about the war in Ukraine. Putin will not stop. I think that's debatable. I suppose we should learn from history and believe that he won't stop, but I don't know. I think the comparisons to Mini Mustache Man are, if they're thinking about it and hearing him talk, a little bit over the top. Does he strike you as a madman in pursuit of a master race? No. He's attacking a country we're not allied to, but we tried to get into NATO. I'm not saying he's justified in invading a sovereign country at all. What I am saying is it's one of these situations where it's technically by rule of alliances, not our problem. However, Russia's got nukes. Russia's got a lot of military power. Europe, not so much. Here we are. I hate that we're spending tons of money on that and not on our backyard, not on the border, of course. Talked about that on previous episodes, but whatever. I'm just a simple sports talk show host. More hyperbole. You talked about January 6th. There's a dagger at the throat of American democracy. Oh. I still think that wasn't as organized as it was made out to be, but again, to each their own. It obviously wasn't good. But at a certain point, can we move on from January 6th, talking about it the same way we talk about September 11th, talking about it the same way we talk about Pearl Harbor? I think vastly different in terms of loss of life, obviously, but also in terms of the overall impact on our country. It is a convenient thing to bring up when you're talking about the guy that you're running against in the coming election. My favorite part of the State of the Union is the peanut gallery. So I guess over the last couple of years, people who disagree with the president, they speak up and they'll yell, "Liar!" and things like that. And as someone who likes chaos and likes awkwardness, I love that. So that happened only a couple of times. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene really went after Joe Biden for not Lincoln Riley, as I think Biden initially said, but Lincoln Riley. I felt like Biden handled that question pretty well, considering Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking over him, but I just like the theatrics of it. Because, again, I'm a stupid American, and I just like the entertainment side of the State of the Union. But there's people in the crowd that are yelling, "Liar! Liar! Lies!" And then on top of that, this is my real favorite part. All of a sudden, the State of the Union, when people are agreeing with the president, they're getting up and they're applauding, and everyone applauds at certain moments. There's a couple of moments during the State of the Union where everyone has to get up and clap their hands for it. But there's a couple of moments where it's just one side of the aisle standing up, and they're clapping along very loudly. But at other moments where there wasn't as much clapping, you'll hear somebody in the background going, "Mm-hmm." That's right. It sounds. I've only been to Protestant church services a couple of times, but I'm assuming that this is something that happens at some of them, maybe specifically Baptist ones, more often than not. "Mm-hmm. You tell them, Joe." That's what I'm talking about. There was a lot of that going on. It made me laugh. One last thing on the State of the Union. There's also the rebuttal at the end. My God, that rebuttal. I think everybody is probably in agreement on this one. Can this bring America together? So Katie Britt, who is a senator, a Republican senator, very pretty woman. I thought it was pretty interesting. She had a plunging neckline dress, but there's a cross in the middle of it. And she was shooting it from what looked like a sitcom kitchen. And I don't know if she got acting lessons from Jennifer Love Hewitt circa I Know What You Did last summer, early on in Jennifer Love Hewitt's career. "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?" But, my God, she made me laugh. She starts off so angry and emotional, but then she would randomly start smiling and trying to relate with the mothers out there. And the emotional range was, I'm not going to lie, a little serial killer-y. Just a little bit. Now, luckily, she's an attractive woman, so I don't think any of us really got that vibe from her. But Jesus Christ, that lady, the ups and downs of that rebuttal. I feel like it should have made all of us come together. Between that, the State of the Union, Biden like speedily slurring through his words, but doing a better job than I honestly thought he would. And then at the end, Katie Britt going like, rah, 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 like back and forth, the ups, the downs, the ups, the downs. I feel like that entire fucking show, yet another example of politics really being theatrics, all performative bullshit. I feel like that should all bring us together because all these people fucking suck. They're all not really looking out for us. They are going to wait to take care of certain issues that are going on right now entirely so that they can use them as reasons to be elected. And this year might be an entire waste of fucking time. And it bums me out. It really does. I don't trust any of these people. You shouldn't trust any of these people either. I know we want to play like, oh, my team's good, my team's bad. They're all terrible. I'd love to talk with some of them and to just explain like this is how you should be perceived. And I really do wonder how many would listen to me. Obviously, most of them would think I'm a fucking idiot. You know, I'm a sports talk show host. What the fuck do I know about any of this stuff? But my God, last night I watched that way too long. Luckily, I played Helldivers and drank wine at the end of it because I needed to veg out just a little bit. Rick Haywood says the rebuttal was totally bipolar. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant. Guys, I appreciate you stopping by. I'm sorry I haven't been around for the last month. This is the first episode in a month, but I appreciate you stopping by as always and listening to my fucking ramblings. A lot of people on Twitter, it seems like, are watching it, but I don't really know what to believe and what not to believe. It says 228 people on Twitter right now. But for our YouTubers and for our Twitchers, I appreciate you guys as well. We are live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on Twitter at Gallant Says, on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. We're shooting for Monday and Thursday nights. I would say around 7, 8 o'clock, probably the optimal times for me. Occasionally after Houston sporting events, major ones as well. And it's available wherever you get your podcasts after the fact: Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. I missed you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back at it again on Monday. Until then, so long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful weekend.